Hi green lovers, it's May 29th in my Northern California Zone 9B garden, and I am back from 3 whole weeks of being away from my garden. My father-in-law and my son took great care of watering it every single day, but other than that, nothing else happened, and the garden has gone a little bit crazy. So I've got to do a few things to bring it back on track, and I'm going to bring you along and show you some of the things that happened while I was on vacation and work travel. Coming right up. First off, I want to show you right behind me these beautiful sunflowers. Now these sunflowers, believe it or not, I got from the wayside when we were doing a trip last year. You know, they were all over the place, wild sunflowers, and I told my husband to stop the car. I grabbed some seeds and I planted them, and look at them. They are growing like crazy, and they're in all different parts of my garden. Now, these are a little bit of a bully. They are taking up this entire raised bed pretty much. And I need this raised bed or this planter to plant my peppers. So I don't have the heart to get rid of them. So I'm gonna try and find all kinds of other spots to put my peppers and my eggplants, and I will get to this when I get to this. Let's start with my seedlings. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of seedlings that still need to go in the ground. They are mostly peppers, but I've also got some squash and a few other things. So I've got to get my act together and start planting these up. It's pretty late in the season already, but hey, the occasion had to happen. These here are my Egyptian walking onions. These are top set onions. I've done several videos on these. I love these. I grow them all over my garden. And behind them, this tall thing over here is a carrot that has decided to bolt. Now these have beautiful blossoms that attract a lot of wonderful bees and other pollinators. So I'm going to just let it be. Moving on, here is my dragon fruit. Now this dragon fruit has been growing quite quickly. All this is new growth while I was gone, and I need to trim these off, and I also need to stake this. In fact, this thing had grown all the way on the side and was kind of hanging down, and I'm gently trying to nudge it upwards. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all this extra growth because it is taking away from the growth of the main plant, and I do need it to put more energy into the main plant. I'm actually going to let these dry out and see if I can plant them. Now, I don't know anything about growing dragon fruit. This is my first year, but I just know I want a lot of plants, and if this can give me another plant, then so be it. So I'm going to let it callus over for a couple of days, and then I'm going to plant it. This is another thing that took me by surprise. This plant, or these plants, are all basil plants, and they were tiny, literally 6 inches tall, and now look at them. They turned to these huge bushes, and what I'm worried about is they are in this whiskey barrel competing with my lime tree, and I've been trying to get this lime tree to do stuff for me, like produce some fruit, and it might be trying to do something like that, but with all of this growth from the basil, I worry that the main plant is being stifled out. So might have to do something about this. I'm not really sure what. And if I were to move to this one, which is a fig tree, well, that's supposed to be the main attraction, but look what's taking over. There were a couple of strawberry plants that I planted here, and they are growing huge. And not just growing huge, well, yeah, they're producing strawberries too, thank you. But they are producing suckers. Now, this thing was actually lying on the ground like this, and I had to pick it up and put it here to see whether I could get it to root. Now, with strawberries, you don't want them to produce suckers because it takes away energy from the plant when it's trying to produce fruit. But given that these are already so far gone, I'm going to just get some new plants from them. Walking back over to my planters here, I wanted to show you this. These are 4 San Marzano tomato plants. Now, I did a video last year on one San Marzano tomato plant that gave me so many tomatoes, over 100 tomatoes on just one small 2-foot tall plant. So I saved seeds from it and I planted those, and they're all growing here now, and they're producing tomatoes. So I'm hoping to have some luck this year with these 4 plants instead of the 1 plant and get enough tomatoes but I can maybe even do some canning. This is also something that went absolutely crazy while I was gone. This was an arugula plant that had started to flower, and now it's gone. It's gone to seed, and I'm gonna have to chop it down so I can make room for these peppers to grow up and do their thing. Brings me to the first thing that you need to do when you come back from vacation is give all of your plants just a little bit of liquid fertilizer, just to kind of get them going. You don't know what state they're in, so give them all some liquid fertilizer, and I did that this morning. I gave them some fish emulsion fertilizer, and yeah, this just kind of gives them that boost, that jump start, and gets them back on path. Now, these are all pepper plants that I rushed and planted up right before I left, and I was hoping that they would make it through the transplant shock and all of that, and looks like they did, which is great. And then what I did, because I didn't get around to planting these, is I just buried these cups in the soil with the hope that if they dry out or they need nutrients or something like that, they can burrow through the bottom, the holes in the cup, and get into the soil and get some nutrients. So that's a tip for you if you just haven't gotten around to transplanting some of your plants. You can just bury them, and they will probably do better than just leaving them in the cup kind of sitting on the ground. There are a few casualties. This one gone, this one gone, but that's okay. I do have a lot of pepper plants. The next thing that I wanted to show you was this absolutely delightful mess. Yep, these are actually 6 raised beds, and these are my main garden, but they have gotten pretty chaotic while I was on vacation. Yikes, let me show you some of the things that are going on. So first off, my brassicas have bolted all over the place, which is not unexpected. What I did not expect is they'd get this big. They're as big as me. They're taller than me, and they are blocking the pathway here. So just in order to make my way through this forest, I'm going to have to chop these down. Just get some airflow and yeah, just make it look a little bit more presentable. But I have to admit, I am loving this mess. All my Merlot lettuce has bolted as well, which is fine. I enjoyed looking at it, and I ate a lot as well. This is rat tail radish. This has gone beyond the point where I can eat it, so I'm going to let this go to seed as well. I loved this very much, and I'm going to save seeds, and I'm going to share it with friends. Okay, so that brings me to tip number 2. This particular bed here, even though it's got a lot of crazy stuff going on, the main attraction is my tomato plants. These are the Florida Weave Trellis method that I had in a previous video. I showed you how I did that. And the thing about the Florida Weave is you've got to stay on top of your game. So when I left, the tomato plants were up to this level of the Florida Weave. Now, as you can see, they have grown and grown, and they're a foot taller than where I left them. Now, ideally, I should have had 2 more strings running, but I'll have to do that now, because what happens is if you don't do that, the plants start to fall, and I'm going to have to prop them back up. I'm going to have to maybe remove some suckers, which have also probably gone beyond the point where I ideally could have just sort of pinched them off, but I'm going to have to do all of that cleanup. I'm also going to have to go underneath the tomato plants. You can see over here. Now, this is a recipe for fungal diseases and things like that start getting to the plant. I'm going to have to remove all of these lower branches. I like to keep at least a foot at the bottom of the plant free of any leaves and any vegetation. So I'll go ahead and clean all of that up. You can see there are tomatoes starting to form, so I am happy about that. This is an early girl, and a lot of my tomato plants have started forming fruit, and they're full of flowers. Now, we did have a few days while I was gone where the temperatures crept above 90 degrees, and tomatoes don't like that. They stop flowering and they start to drop their flowers once the temperature goes beyond 90, 95. So I'm glad that happened only for a couple of days, but looks like they're doing okay. crawling under this shade. I tried to protect some of my lettuce to keep them from bolting. But yeah, the season is past. This is all iceberg lettuce and they're small, and the Merlot lettuce is bolting. And yeah, I think I can still do something with the iceberg lettuce, but the Merlot lettuce is probably better at this point. So one of the things that I was a little shocked actually to see was this space, which when I left had beautiful green potato plants growing. Now I know that it's about time. It's about 110 days or so since I planted these, and potatoes, typically that's about how long they take to form the tubers underneath. And I need to pull these out, but I was surprised at how this went from full green to nothing. And I'm hoping I've got some potatoes. So that's the next thing that you need to do, is look around and harvest whatever you can, particularly the ones that are past season, like these potato plants here. And I've got some other things that I need to harvest, like lettuce and maybe some brassica leaves and things like that I can put in smoothies and throw in my soups. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest some stuff. But while we are looking at these potatoes, I'm going to pull one out for you and show you what I've got underneath. Now I haven't even peeked, so I don't know what to expect. So here goes nothing. Literally nothing. Wait. Oh, looks like there is a potato there. Let's see if I can find anything else. Ooh, more potatoes. Anything else? Oh, some more. These are Yukon Golds. Oh, wow. 4 potatoes from that one plant. Maybe that's about it. I'm gonna have to come here with some kind of a tool and dig it out. I don't like digging with my bare hands. I'm always worried that something underneath is gonna bite me like a gopher. I know, ridiculous, huh? But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest all of these potatoes. So this is my potato harvest, folks. It is pretty good, given that I threw in maybe an investment of about 6 potatoes total. I got about, oh gosh, I'd say about 15-20 pounds of potatoes. They're mostly Yukon Gold. There are a few russet potatoes here and there, but I like this. It's like food for nothing. I normally would have thrown out those potatoes because they were sprouting, but look at what they have produced for practically no work at all. Love it. Okay, did a bit of cleanup and things are looking so much nicer. Okay folks, lots to see on this side of my garden, but in the interest of keeping this video a reasonable length, I'm just going to show you a few special things here and there. So this long planter running along my fence, my husband and my sons made it for me this year, and I am intending to grow things like berries and fruits that grow very, very quickly. Now, because of my beautiful oak trees all around my garden, I cannot grow fruit trees. They just get shaded out, they don't grow to size. So I've given up on that, and I'm going to choose certain types of fruits that can grow quickly. Things like this Pepino Dulce. I've never grown this before, but it's a South American fruit, and it kind of tastes like a sweet cucumber is what I understand, but keen to grow that this year. It's supposed to be able to produce fruits in the first year itself, so we'll see. I've also got some berries that I planted this year. Oh, not looking very good because of the heat wave we had recently, but hopefully it'll come back. Thornless raspberries and blackberries. So these won't produce this year, but maybe next year if they survive. Another one right here, another Pepino Dulce. By the way, I grew the Pepino Dulce from cuttings, just little 6-inch long cuttings that I got started earlier this year. So very proud of that. This is a Passiflora passion fruit, and they supposedly grow really, really well in my part of the world, but I've never grown it before. And it was a tiny little plant, again only about 6 or 8 inches tall, and it is already about 4 feet tall, so, and growing quickly. It's a creeper. I've put a little trellis here. Let's see how much of it will take over. Let's see, what else do I have here? Goji berry. This was another small little snippet of a thing that a friend of mine gave me, and this has grown, and it's growing very, very, very quickly. Again, about 3 or 4 feet tall. Another pepino dolce, another blackberry, and a few tomato plants here. Just for good measure, I had some space, so I threw in some extra tomato plants. Now these are dwarf tomatoes. This one is called, I believe, a geranium kiss. Now this produces huge bunches of full-size tomatoes on a dwarf size plant. I'll link a video in the description to where I talk about these, but this is something that I would highly recommend, especially if you're a small space gardener. That is a great white. It's probably my favorite tomato. It's a white tomato that tastes more like a fruit. I've never tasted a tomato like that. It's kind of like a melon is what it tastes like, but absolutely love that. And then I've got some poha or ground cherries. Now these, I'll show you in a different part of my garden, but these are kind of like tomatillos. They have a little casing over them, but the reason they're called ground cherries is that when they get ripe, they drop to the ground and they taste like candy, literally like candy. They're super, super sweet. So these are some very special, interesting little tomato plants I'm growing here. This here is an interesting little flower. It's called a straw flower. It's the first time I'm growing it this year. And look at this. It's got like this papery kind of a texture. It's almost like a dry flower. And in fact, it is an everlasting flower. You can dry these and you can put them in everlasting bouquets. So I am really keen to grow these. I'm going to show you around the corner where I've got different colors growing, but this is a white one and there's a couple of reds coming up. But let me show you some others that I've got up front. So this is the ground cherry that I was talking about. This is in a different part of my garden. You can see how it's got that little casing. The ground cherry is inside it. So just like a tomatillo, but tastes very, very different. Okay, so these are the other straw flowers that I wanted to show you. Look how gorgeous that is. Oh. Got many different colors. So kind of a pale pink. Another pink. This one's kind of a maroon. This one's a kind of a deep rusty red. So pretty. This one's yellow. And this one's cream. So I hope you enjoyed the garden tour, folks. Please drop a comment, ask me any questions. I love hearing from you guys. And do throw a like to this video if you learned something new, or even if you just enjoyed it. It really helps it get out to a broader audience. And until next time, live green and love your greens.